We're here, guys. You can finally see us now. Um, what we thought was going to happen yesterday actually happens today. As always, welcome back to Dugout Talk. Today, I believe episode 16. We're also going to be
Yes,
releasing episode
sir.
17 as well today. Talking about a couple AL East teams, AL Central teams. We'll be talking about the Detroit Tigers, talking about the Kansas City Royals, couple rule changes, and unfortunately, we lost a good one. I believe it was 2 days ago now. Pedro Gomez, one of the better baseball writers and ESPN guys in general. You've probably seen him since you were growing up. Pedro Gomez has been out there on the front lines, just kind of reeling in that great news. He's been a great reporter for many years, and a lot of people are going to miss him.
Yeah. Pedro was a pro's pro. He was the epitome of the of journalism and just the sports media business as a whole. Um, I think I'm still really shocked. It's been 2 days, but you just kind of think about it and hearing this news um, is definitely it's a punch in the gut. It's never it's never something you expect. But I think just seeing all the tributes that have been pouring in for Pedro, not only in the baseball world, but even in the football world and just other um, ESPN colleagues of his coming out and sharing stories of just how genuine of a guy he was, how much of a family man he was. I think a consistent theme in stories being told is that no matter what conversation you were having with Pedro Gomez, his family was always brought in. I think one of my favorite stories about him was back in 2016. Major League Baseball and Cuba were doing did an exhibition game in Cuba. It was the Tampa Bay Rays and the Cuba national team, and Pedro Gomez's family is from Cuba originally. They defected to the United States before he was born in 1962. They lived in the Miami area. That's where he was born and raised. And Pedro talked about on the Scott Van Pelt show after that game, I believe it was in 2016, how he actually had brought his father and his brother's ashes down with him on that trip, and he got to spread them in the country. Um, because of the Castro regime, his father never went back, but Pedro was a big part of trying to kind of unite relations again during that baseball exhibition. And I can't help but think that, just with the kind of guy that he was, just the impact that he had on baseball and the impact he had on colleagues. This is heartbreaking, and I think baseball is not going to be the same this year without him. ESPN broadcast. I know he wasn't on like the premier Sunday night games, but he was on their other Wednesday night telecasts usually. I can't really imagine what it's going to be like to not see Pedro on the big screen this year. It's just, it really sucks. And I think I was looking through Twitter today, and Jason Beck tweeted this quote from AJ Hinch, who is the Tigers' new skipper. And this is what AJ had to say about Pedro. A one-of-a-kind part of our baseball family was lost with the passing of Pedro Gomez. It hit me hard yesterday, just as it has for so many who crossed paths with Patey. Whether it was a professional conversation about the game or more likely a personal exchange about your families, I always felt that Pedro was in my corner. I will miss our talks, his perspective on life, and his unwavering belief in connection. I'm forever thankful he called me on Thursday to tell stories of Tigers baseball, the art of managing, and his happiness for my new beginning. Rest in peace, Armano. Um, like you said in the quote, just on Thursday, he had talked with Pedro about um, just about what was about the art of managing and family, and it's just it's still really shocking just how unexpected this is, and there's still no details about what happened, and I imagine we're not going to hear anything for a little while, and it's probably better that way. Um, but Pedro, you're one of the great ones, and it sucks. It feels like already in our short time on these podcasts, we've had to break some of this news. Um, it seems like it's been a weekly thing right now, and
Hmm.
I hope it ends. Unfortunately, we know that that's not going to be the case, but um, hopefully it's not for a little. Hopefully it's for a little while longer before something like this has to be broke again. But Pedro, to your family, to your friends, your colleagues, my prayers and condolences to you. Um, he was just one of the good ones for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, yeah, we'll just kind of go ahead and jump into the Tigers. As entering this season, they went 23-35 last year. Um, they've had a relatively quiet offseason. Their main pieces that they've lost were Ivan Nova to the Phillies, Austin Romine to the Cubs, and Jordan Zimmerman and CJ Crone are both still pending free agents. But I mean, it's almost addition by subtraction losing a guy like Jordan Zimmerman. They've been kind of stuck under his contract for the length of it to this point. So um, it's almost a good thing there. Nova was just an innings eater for them. Romine was probably the biggest loss they had. CJ Crone was kind of looked at as maybe a potential 30 home run threat for them. Could be like he's sneaky power, play some decent first base. That ended up not happening really at all. Some of their key additions that they did make though, Robbie Grossman, the left fielder, they signed him to a contract. They picked up Wilson Ramos. They took a flyer on him for a single year. Jose Urena from the Marlins, they picked him up. It'll kind of be upsetting not getting to watch him and Ronald Acuna's beef going back and forth anymore. I know that was a big thing a couple years ago. They also gave a non-roster invite to veteran relief pitcher, starting pitcher Derek Holland. So, like I said, it's a quiet off season. Didn't make too many moves. Didn't too many pieces. Lose they'll be replacing in house outside of Romine and Nova, which they replaced with kind of Ramos and Urena. Um, the rest of the guys that they're going to be looking at are all going to be pretty much homegrown pieces. I don't expect them to go out and make any more big splashes in free agency. What kind of vibes have they been giving you with how their offseason's gone so far?
Um, the vibe I'm getting is they're letting the future come up. Um, and there's no other way to put it. Like you said, most of the guys that are here now, they're homegrown talent, minus a few free agents that they went out and signed. And it's not like they signed these guys to mega contracts or anything. It's just more, this is kind of like a filler year for these guys where while some of their top prospects, such as the likes of Daz Cameron and Jake Rogers, are developing a little further into their minor league system. Um, I think this is just more so the team is looking for some veteran presence to maybe help them compete somewhat this year. Um, I think the team does have a bright future. I don't expect much from this year for them though, and that's not a bad thing. I don't think necessarily the team expects a lot either, considering what they have to compete with in the Central, and also knowing that a lot of their top talent isn't quite ready to come up yet. Um, it's not much, but I think I think this team can be one that does surprise some people. Maybe I think they can make some strides this year where they might perform a little better than what experts and analysts may think. But other than that, this is just kind of they're waiting for the future, and this is a year where they're allowing the future to get that last year of development. So then next year and maybe even later this year, they can start taking over more full time duties on the roster.
Yeah, absolutely. More of a year, I'll say, than a rebuild year. They're kind of transitioning from a rebuild to sort of like the humble beginnings of maybe a long term playoff push. Um, with that said, we will jump over to their projected lineup. Um, I know from talking yesterday, it looks like we had relatively close to the same kind of lineup. I do have Victor Reyes, the right fielder, leading off. I have Robbie Grossman playing left field, hitting second. I have the DH Miguel Cabrera hitting third. I have the second baseman Jonathan Scope cleaning up. I've got the first baseman Jamier Candelario hitting fifth, the Candyman. I've got their catcher Wilson Ramos hitting sixth. I have Nico Goodrum at third base hitting sixth or seventh. Sorry, Jacoby Jones in center field hitting eighth, and Willie Castro, the shortstop, rounding it out at number 9.
So I actually changed my lineup a little bit
Okay.
since yesterday because I was looking at it and I was like, I'm not entirely sure about this anymore. I do have Victor Reyes leading off in right field, and I told you this yesterday, but my cousin thinks that Reyes is capable of a 40-40,
Yeah.
40 homer, 40 stolen base. If you don't know, for those of you who don't know what that means, which that's saying a lot for him. And I don't watch the Tigers very much, so I'm not as familiar. My cousin follows the prospect line though, the minor league guys, so that's where I get most of my info. So I think Reyes, we'll see. Maybe this year he shows flashes of that, but I've got him at the leadoff spot right now. Willie Castro, I've got him hitting second as the shortstop. Miguel Cabrera, I've got him hitting third as the designated hitter. Wilson Ramos, I've got him hitting fourth, doing the catching. Ramos is a good hitter for being a catcher, especially as of late. I know early in his career he wasn't really known for the bat, but he started to get more of a consistent presence up there. He started hitting more for a better average and even adding some pop there on occasion in the lineup. So I think he's going to be the cleanup hitter. The Candyman, Jamier Candelario, I've got him hitting fifth, playing first base. I think this is going to be a breakout year for him, actually. He showed some flashes of it last year, and I think this year everything's going to come together if he's healthy. Batting sixth, I got the second baseman, Jonathan Scope, which they brought him back on a 1-year deal the other day. Batting seventh, I got the third baseman, Nico Goodrum. He can also play anywhere in the infield, which is really nice to have for them. He can play some outfield too, so he's actually a really good addition to having that lineup. You can put him just about anywhere, and he'll be okay. Batting eighth, I've got the new left fielder, Robbie Grossman. And batting ninth, I got center fielder, Jacoby Jones.
Okay. Yeah, that's not bad. Yeah, that's not bad at all. I don't know what to expect from guys like Robbie Grossman and Jacoby Jones. I mean, they've both. I mean, obviously Robbie Grossman is much older than Jacoby Jones, but in the past year and a half, they've both kind of shown different versions of themselves. Go last season, people thought Jacoby Jones was, a big bust. It didn't look like he could hit. He was fast and he could field, but that bat was really missing. He was missing big time. But last year he kind of had a good season with the bat. So he kind of rounded the tools out a little bit. Robbie Grossman, sort of the same thing. Robbie Grossman's been with a couple different teams, whether it be Houston, Oakland, and so forth. But yeah, I like their lineup to at least be competitive. I don't think it's going to be good, but it should at least be. I know they have a lot of money owed to Miguel Cabrera, and I don't know that I see them really reaching their peak competition until after his contract is gone. So, unfortunately for Miggy, he is probably going to miss those early days of Tigers competition again.
Yeah, he's not the same player that he was. I mean, he can still hit, but he's
Oh,
definitely
yeah.
not the same guy
Yeah.
that he was as recently as 2016. A
Mm-hmm.
couple other guys to keep an eye out for, though, the Tigers could potentially slot in regularly. Kristen Stewart, He's
Hmm.
another outfielder that they have, and I'm not sure how they view Robbie Grossman, if they view him as an everyday starter. I've always seen
Yeah.
him more as like a fourth outfielder.
Hmm.
To me, Stewart is probably the guy who's more capable of being an everyday starter, but I could easily see those two guys flipping around and maybe even Jacoby Jones kind of rovering in depending on how he does with the bat. Harold Castro's another guy to keep an eye on. He's an infielder for them. He and Willie Castro could easily split time between short, second, wherever you want to put them. And I was telling you this yesterday, but I think Jonathan Scope is going to be more trade bait than anything.
Hmm.
Um, as the year goes on, I don't expect him to finish the year with the team. I think especially if he has a good start to the year, teams are they're gonna put him on the block to see if they can get anything for him. And then Grayson Griner, the
Hmm.
backup catcher, he was their primary catcher last year, I believe. He's probably not ready for everyday starts, but they're very high on him. They really like what they've got in him, so I expect to see him playing a pretty key role for the team this year too at some point, especially if maybe Ramos gets put on the trade block too.
Yeah. Another guy to look at who's got a great name, by the way, Akil Badu, I believe is how you Akil Badu, the outfielder.
Mm.
Um, he's a guy to look out for. Their infielder Isaac Paredes is another guy to look out for. Um, they got a decent bench. They got some utility out of their bench more than anything.
Right.
May not be the best bench, may not even be the best bench in the AL Central, but versatile. We'll jump over to their rotation, kind of how that stacks out. I've got like let's see here. I've got like 8 guys that I think could all in time for them this season. Uh, we'll lead off kind of with Matthew Boyd. He's not a great starting pitcher, but he's kind of the guy they're going to have to lean on for their opening day and sort of like ace uh, role that they're going to have. I like Spencer Turnbull to kind of be their number 2 guy. I like Michael Fulmer to be their 3, Jose Urena to be their 4, Tariq Skubal to be their 5. But I do also think that it's possible that we'll see Daniel Morris, Derek Holland, and Casey Mize all make starting appearances for them. And maybe depending on how spring training goes, maybe they do go with Casey Mize, Daniel Morris, or Derek Holland in a starting role instead of Tariq Skubal. I actually have more to talk about Skubal. He made his debut this past season. Wasn't too bad, but he definitely I think will need more time in the minors than what he's had. I believe he went from never appearing above like Double A straight to the majors. So I think he'll definitely need some more time, which is why I wrote down so many names that could potentially overtake him in the number 5 spot. But that's kind of how I have my rotation set up.
Yeah, mine's similar to yours too, and I think the Tigers are in a position with especially that number 5 spot. They could go down any route that they wanted. Um, I've been talking about this quite a bit over the last few weeks, really since we started recording this show, how the San Diego Padres brought up a good point where trying to get pitchers back into a 162 game schedule after playing only 60 games last year and some change is going to be a lot harder than I think people realize, because you're going from a half season to a full season of preparation. And I
Mhm.
think, and the Padres have said that they are going to go with a 6-man rotation this year. I think they're the only team that's really confirmed it at this point. I think some other teams have thrown the idea around, but the Padres are the only team that have said they're going to actually do it. And I've said this on quite a few of our breakdowns, how I think a lot of these teams will start doing that 6-man rotation as well. And I think Detroit is right there with them. They have a lot of capable starters, especially with some of the prospects that are coming up. And these prospects didn't get a minor league season last year. So they had a lot of guys debut, get some work in, and some of them did a good job.
Mhm.
Some of them not so much. But I still think that most if not all of these guys could use extra time in the minors just to get that extra development and make up for that lost time from last year. I do have Matthew Boyd as the ace.
Mm-hmm.
He's never recorded an ERA below 0.3 in a year, and I know a couple of years ago they were trying to use him as trade bait because he had a good start to, I
Yeah.
believe it was 2018. I want to say.
Yeah.
I'm gonna look this up real quick, but he had a really good start to a season 1 year, and I think that he, for what the Tigers have, he's probably okay being the ace for the team. Let's see. He had that 4.39 ERA in 2018. He had a 4.56 ERA in 2019 too. So he put up 2 decent years in a row, but last year was atrocious for him.
Yeah.
So I don't really think he's a traditional ace, but considering where the Tigers are, I have him as the number one. It's crazy too. They tried to trade him a couple years ago, like I said, and it's probably a good thing the Angels did not take that trade
Yeah.
because that could have really blown up in their face.
Oh, yeah.
So I think the Angels dodged a bullet there with that. I do have Spencer Turnbull as their number 2. I think he could be the future ace. I don't think he'll be the ace this year, but I could say as easily as next year he might be the ace.
Mm-hmm.
Michael Fulmer, I've got him as the number 3. And I could maybe I could see maybe Fulmer being in that ace spot. If it's not Boyd, it's probably Fulmer. But I've got him as the 3 right now. Jose Urania, I've got him as the number 4. He was the ace down in Miami, but I also don't think he's really ace material exactly. No. And even maybe putting him in the 4 spot might be a little low for him. But I think it's a good start for him, especially because I'm pretty sure he had an injury last year, didn't pitch a whole lot to begin with. And then for the 5 and 6, I'm kind of flip-flop between Casey Mize and Tariq Skubal. Mize did get some work in the majors last year. He was the number 1 overall pick in 2018, I believe, or it was 2019. He was the number 1 overall pick in 2019. Skubal, I think, was the number 1 overall pick 1 year as well. I can't remember. No, he wasn't. No, he wasn't the number 1 overall pick. But these 2 guys, I think, could still use some time in the minor leagues. But for right now, I've got them slotted as the final 2 roster spots. But I can also see Derek Holland playing a role as a fifth or sixth starter. And then Matt Manning's another guy I've got my eye on too. I don't think Manning played last year with the team, but
no, I don't believe so.
It seems like he's going to be a big contributor for them. I think the Tigers are expecting him to be a big contributor. So I could see that being a possibility too, depending on how spring training goes. Spring's going to be really big for a lot of these young guys. It's going to be huge for Casey Mize because of how high the Tigers are on him. It'll be interesting to see if they really think he's capable of being on the opening day roster like 2 years out of being the number 1 overall pick. So I'm really curious to see how that goes. I'm actually kind of excited to see what this team can do in spring training because I think that's going to be it's really going to show kind of not only what these guys are capable of, but kind of what the team is going to look like going forward with the season. So that's kind of who I've got rounding out my rotation. They're in an interesting spot though, for sure. They can really go any route that they want.
Yeah, they have a lot of high-end draft picks that are, either making their debut, just made their debut, or will soon make their debut. So like they're going to have a lot of high-end talent making its way through Detroit here pretty soon. Jumping over to their bullpen here. I do like Joe Jimenez to continue to be their closer. And then honestly, the rest of their bullpen will be made up of the likes of like Gregory Soto, Buck Farmer, Jose Cisnero, Xander, who the name might sound familiar to a few of you guys out there. He was a guy that struck out like 8 players in a row in a relief performance.
Yeah, something like that. It was last year.
2019.
No, it was last year. It was last year he did that.
Okay.
John Boy did a breakdown of it, and if I can find the breakdown, I'll post it on our Twitter. So then you guys can see it. But it was absolutely insane what he did.
Yeah, kind of put him on the map for a little bit. He regressed back to the mean, to the average, but yeah, for a little bit there, he was electric. He
Yeah,
still has great strikeout stuff. He should be a great fit for that bullpen.
right.
Another two guys I kind of want to keep an eye on. They're not slated to be opening day guys, but David McKay and Ian Kroll, who's a non-roster invite. Those are two guys who I've kind of been keeping an eye on. Um, they're not necessarily prospects. I think McKay's like 26 or something like that, but a couple guys kind of keep an eye on. I think that basically how spring training goes for them could kind of determine where they start, but I think it's a good possibility that they see immediately time.
Yeah, and that just adds to my note about what I said about spring training. It's going to be spring's going to be big for a lot of these guys to kind of make rosters, and some of these guys, it could be career defining for them. I think Derek Holland's one of those guys where if he doesn't have a good spring and doesn't make the team, it's probably it. We're probably not going to see him again unless it's some other team that's really desperate for pitching goes in and brings him in. But my bullpen, I also like Joe Jimenez as the closer. He was an all-star a few years ago. Yep. He's probably the best reliever that they have right now. So I like him taking closer duties for opening day. Gregory Soto, I'm still not really sure on Soto. He was really highly touted when he first came up, but I just haven't been all that impressed with what I've seen from him so far. And granted, I don't watch the Tigers very much. Living on the West Coast, well, West Central Coast, I'll say. I don't get Tigers games, so I don't see them very much, but I have seen briefly some of Gregory Soto's stuff, and he still looks really erratic out there. I am not entirely sure about him, but I do have him in the bullpen right now as well. Jose Cisnero, Buck Farmer, Brian Garcia, Tyler Alexander, the insane dude from last year, and then one of their former starters, Daniel Norris. He's another guy I've got. I think that's going to be in their bullpen and play a key part, and he might even be an emergency starter for them if they need it. Which, by the way, Norris has a great story. I don't know if any of you guys have really heard it, but Norris is a cancer survivor. But he also, when he first came up to the majors, he was living in a van by his choice. He was living in a van. It wasn't like he was homeless or anything like that. But there was a whole big story that came out. I think he was with Toronto at the time when it came out. And if I can find a link to that too, I'll post it either today or tomorrow, whichever one, whenever I find it. But I think Norris is going to be a key contributor for them too, and he might even be a trade piece later on, depending on how the team sees him. Also, a fun fact about Daniel Norris: he, in his first major league at bat in 2015, it was actually the first pitch he ever saw. He hit a dead center homer at Wrigley Field. And I watched the highlight of that the other day. That was kind of stellar, especially for being an American League pitcher. You don't see that all the time.
My big Daniel Norris memory is seeing Gary Sanchez hit an absolute piss rocket to left field off him. Norris threw like some little like weak curveball, and Gary just let her rip. I think it was like 490 feet. I'll find it and I'll post it to our Facebook.
I remember that. Was that the same day they duked it out?
Like it might have been.
I think it was that series.
And Cabrera. Yeah, I think it was that series.
It was that series. I just don't remember if it was the same day or not. But
I don't know. But you want to talk about a bomb? Yeah, it nearly hit their scoreboard out in left center, and that thing's like 500.
Yeah, that's about 500 feet away.
Yeah, that's my Daniel Norris memory.
Yeah, we'll stop dumping on him, but
yeah,
look out for him. He should be a good bullpen piece for that young team this year.
I have three prospects I want to look over. One of them I hope you know the name of. One of them you know the name of, and one of them you might not know the name of. We'll go from least to most identifiable. We'll start off with Ronnie Garcia, a relief pitcher / starting pitcher, depending on where he will play the majority of his season.
Mm-hmm.
He's 23 years old. He owns a 13-30 minor league career record, 3.5 career ERA, 72 starts, 75 games. Um, Now, from what I was reading about him, he has shown flashes of velocity. He has the possibility of reaching 96 with his fastball, although it appears that as he fatigues throughout a game, his fastball velocity drops relatively hard.
Mm.
Some have seen him drop all the way down to like 91 with his fastball in the same game that he was just throwing 96. So doesn't really have that longevity that you see guys like. I know it's not fair to compare him to guys like Justin Verlander, Luis Severino, who, as you know, the later they go in the game, they seem to be able to throw it faster than they were earlier. So I don't know that he'll be a future starting pitcher. I think it'd be much more likely that he'll be a long relief pitcher. He does have a plush changeup. Um, from what I was seeing, it is still kind of a wait and see game on whether or not that'll turn into a great like out pitch for him, like a good strikeout pitch. He definitely is going to need more AAA time. Um, he needs a third pitch. He's kind of a fastball changeup guy right now. Doesn't really have a third pitch, so he will need to probably nail one down. It's possible that I know he saw some major league time, some very brief major league time in 2020. It's possible he sees a little bit of the same in 21, especially if the Tigers go through some injury woes. But I think it's much more likely that you'll see him again in the majors in 2022. Which isn't that bad. It gives him another year to develop, another year to kind of put it together. He's still young, still 23. And a 24-year-old by the name of Daz Cameron, you might know that last name.
Yep.
His father, Mike Cameron, was a major leaguer for like 18 years, 17 or 18 years, something like that. One of my favorite players growing up, simply because my first name is his last name. So I was like, wow, like this dude's like got my name. And so,
Mike is one of 18 players to hit 4 homers in a game.
yes,
So did
Mike
it with
Cameron.
Seattle.
Yep, those were kind of his heydays out there in Seattle.
Yeah,
kind of doing his thing. But yeah, Daz Cameron, he's a 24-year-old outfielder. He was taken in the first round in 2015 by Houston. The name may sound familiar because he was like the big face involved in the Justin Verlander to Houston trade. I believe that was 2017.
Yeah.
Yep, 2017. He's most of his tools are average to above average at this point. His development, he's got stellar bat speed, plus bat speed from what I've seen. A lot of comparisons to like Clint Frazier in terms of bat speed, like legendary type bat speed. But his hit tool in general still lacks. Still, I think he's like a 244 career minor league hitter. So he's got a lot of polishing to do on his bat. He's good on defense. You know, he's got a lot of praise. His speed helps him. He's not super fast, but he is fast enough that his speed is a good complementary tool while he's in the outfield. I think it's possible he could be an injury replacement outfielder in 2021. I don't know if he's got the opportunity. It's possible that he might beat out Akil Baddoo for potentially a backup role, a bench piece. But I think they want him to see more playing time. Hence why they brought him up and let him struggle for like the 17 games that he was up with the major league club last season. I think he hit like 179 or something like that. So I do think it's likely that he'll see a lot of time in AAA still. He's not really at this point viewed as like their future guy in the outfield. He's viewed more as like a stopgap to that future. So I think it's really possible that you could see him as soon as 22, maybe 23, being an everyday outfielder. The next guy that we're going to cover, 20-year-old first baseman. You might know him. You should know him. He was the first overall pick in 2020. Spencer Torkelson out of Arizona State. It's
Go
crazy to
Sun
believe.
Devils.
Yeah, it's crazy to believe that he still has not made his professional debut yet. It feels like he's been drafted for like 3 years now already. But it hasn't even been a year. He's got big power, big bopper down there in Detroit. 159 career NCAA games. This is between his time with Arizona State and his time in some summer leagues that he played in. And it's just interesting when you look at it. I know it's NCAA ball. I know the competition is nowhere near even just minor league level play, but 159 NCAA games, if you were to just take the numbers and just put it in a major league season, he hit 63 home runs, 162 RBIs. He had 200 hits and a 338 batting average in 159 games. Could you imagine if you saw someone do
Oh,
that? Imagine if you saw someone do that at the major league level. Um, I don't know that Spencer Torkelson's going to do this, but he should be a 30, 40 home run a year guy. He should easily top 100 RBIs. He should hit close to 300 year in and year out. It'll be interesting to see how his first minor league season goes, um, and kind of how he starts that development train. Um, but yeah, Spencer Torkelson, he's the future. I believe right now he's the third ranked prospect in baseball. May even be second. I think the two Mariners outfielders are ranked third and fourth, but
yeah.
he's one of the best prospects in the league, and the future's bright. Future's bright. I mean, people are looking at him as kind of like their Miguel Cabrera replacement. And if you remember, it's not that long ago that Miguel Cabrera was like a Triple Crown winner.
Yeah,
So
that was 9 years ago already.
yeah, yeah.
He almost did it again in 2013 too,
Mm-hmm.
but Chris Davis had that insane. He just
Yeah.
had that insane year. Yeah, wow, Spencer. I did not. That's basically a full major league season right there. 159 games
Yeah,
playing.
exactly. Yeah.
That's
Against
incredible.
far inferior talent. Yeah,
Oh,
against far
sure,
inferior talent,
sure,
but still,
but
I mean,
that's still impressive to be able to
yeah.
do something like that. Um, Yeah, so Cameron and Torkelson, I'm really high on those guys too. I'm really excited for Daz Cameron to come
Mm-hmm.
up. A couple guys that I wanted to take a look at. The first guy I'll cover is Jake Rogers. And Rogers did appear in the big leagues last year. He's their top catching prospect right now. Or I'm sorry, he appeared in 2019 for the team. Only hit a buck 25 with them that year across 35 games. But I think kind of looking at what his minor league numbers show, he's only a 242 hitter, but I think getting another work in, a little more work in this year with a minor league season, I expect to see Rogers kind of play a backup part or a backup role right now. And I said he was the top catching prospect. I was wrong about that. He's the team's number 12
Okay.
prospect.
Okay.
There's another guy ahead of him at number 8, Dylan Dingler. Um, but I think that Rogers is someone I've got my eye on. I think he will be on the big league club at some point this year. Another guy I wanted to take a look at is our number 6 prospect, Isaac Paredes. Paredes did play last year. He got 100 at bats in
Mm-hmm.
exactly across 34 games, only hit 220, but his minor league numbers are much better to look at. He's a 274 hitter. He can show some pop. He's got 93 homers lifetime in the minor league since 2016. He's a third baseman. He's 21 years old right now. So he's across 4 levels of minor league ball to hit 93 homers and only be 21 years old. I think he's a guy to look out for. He could even be on the opening day roster. That wouldn't surprise me one bit if he was there. But I think he could even take Nico Goodrum's spot as the everyday third baseman. I feel like Goodrum's just kind of more of a filler at this point
Mm-hmm.
at that corner position. We already talked about Skubal and Mize earlier. The other guy I want to cover, and we talked about him very briefly, is Matt Manning. I really like what he's done so far in the minors. He's got a 3.04 career ERA across 4 levels of minor league ball. He was in Double-A Erie last in 2019. He did not play last year, so I expect to see him on the AAA team mostly this year. But if Manning can put up the numbers that he was putting up in the early minors and then even at AA in 2019, I don't see any reason why he's not on the big league club come June.
Hmm.
I'll say June. I'm confident that by June he could be on the team. Um, he was 11-5 in 2019 with a 2.56 ERA in 24 starts. He had 148 strikeouts that year. Um, in those 24 games, he had 148 strikeouts. So this is a guy he's going to rack up some Ks as time goes on. And I'm really excited for him. And I think that he might even be the future ace. I think in a way he might be better than Casey Mize and Tariq Skubal. So, we'll see. I think the Tigers would be smart to let him get some more time, get some AAA level ball, especially since he didn't pitch last year at the big league level. Let him get
Hmm.
some time in AAA, see what he's capable of, and if he kicks some butt, shoot, why not? Bring him up in June. He might be a big boost for that team, especially if the Tigers have a decent start to the year. He might be a good little addition to bring up and let him actually eat some innings and get that major league experience. But yeah, those are my three guys, and they definitely have more guys on the door who are knocking. But I like what I'm seeing from this team right now. I think this is a team that might do what their squad from 2010 to 2014 couldn't do,
Hmm.
and
Yep.
I think they're gonna get a title with this group. I really do, especially with AJ Hinch at the helm.
Yeah.
I feel really confident that this team might even speed up the process and actually start winning a little earlier than people may think. But yeah, that's really my thoughts on the team, the prospects. This is going to be a fun team to watch in a couple of years.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, if you can do it the right way, kind of stay away from those trash cans, stay away from those buzzers. Should be should be good to go. Yeah, yeah. AJ Hinch. You know, regardless of what you may know him for, yeah, he should be a great manager for them. Um, I had something I wanted to say, but honestly, I totally forgot. Matt Manning's a taller guy, isn't he?
6'6".
Yeah, I thought so.
He's kind of part of that trend of really tall, massive dudes taking
Yeah,
the mound and throwing heat.
yeah. Yeah, yeah, I look forward to seeing him almost, like I said, almost more than I look forward to seeing Casey Mize. Like,
Yeah,
yeah, Matt Manning's
same
just
here.
a tall dude,
I am
a big
extremely
guy.
excited for Manning. I might have to throw a watch party the day he debuts, whenever that is.
Yeah. All right, so I guess looking at the Tigers, looking how they stack up, and how they figure to run their season next year. Um, I could see anywhere from 70 to 80 wins for them. I'd say somewhere in that area is not terrible. Um, it's possible to lose. It's possible they win fewer than 70 games. I think they could win as few as 65, maybe. But I think 70s, 65 would have to, a lot of stuff would have to go bad. A lot of prospects would have to either not make their debuts or make poor debuts. I think 70 wins is a much closer floor. 80 wins, everything goes right. Matt Manning and Casey Mize are studs. They're Cy Young future potential. Daz Cameron shows up and he's hitting 300. Like I think a lot of stuff would have to go right for them to get 80 wins. But yeah, I think somewhere between 70 and 80, maybe like 75, 76 could be their best bet.
Your predictions make me feel like a cynic because I'm not as
Oh
optimistic as you
boy.
are.
Oh
I feel
boy.
like I'm not as optimistic on any of these teams as you are, but
Mm,
I agree with you. I think if everything goes right for the Tigers, 80 wins isn't out of reach, but I think it might be a little too much.
it might be. It might be. I'm not
But
sure.
I was telling you this yesterday too. Having AJ Hinch as the skipper, I think could say a lot. If this team actually
Yeah.
does come out and compete, it's going to say more about who they have at the managing helm than they do really with who's on the team. Because really good skippers can make a mediocre team on paper be really good. We saw with Kevin
Mm-hmm.
Cash for years before the Rays actually had a competing team. We've seen it with Torey Lovello and the Diamondbacks, where they, even with the Dodgers in that division, they've still been able to compete. Other than last year, they had 3 years in a row where they were in it until the very end.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, it is very possible that if Hinch is the kind of skipper that he was in Houston, sure, I wouldn't rule 80 wins out, but I see this team, just because they're still really young and a lot of the talent is going to be coming up, I imagine, at some point in the year. I see more. Their their floor is probably about 63 wins. Ceiling,
Okay.
I'd say about 73. I think they're still going to be at the bottom of the Central. I don't
Mm-hmm.
really see them competing again, but I could see 63 to 73 wins normally, 80 wins if everything goes right for them and everyone else in the division just sucks, which I doubt is going to happen.
Yeah, now that you say it, I think I might revise that a little bit. I might go 65 as the floor and 75 as the ceiling.
Well, on
Um,
Friday when we give our standings, we'll
yeah, yeah. Now that you say about it, 80 wins would be like a man just landed on the moon type of hype for Tigers fans. So yeah, we won't let them get their ego back that quickly. Um, we know what happened the last time the Tigers fans had ego, like uh, inflated egos. I'll say it is crazy to think about the guys that they had on those mid 2010 teams, like Miguel Cabrera, Prince Fielder, Victor Martinez,
JD Martinez.
JD Martinez, Justin
Yeah.
Verlander, Max Scherzer, um, Rick Porcello. Even I think they even had Jared Washburn there for a minute.
They had such a
Crazy.
solid team those years. It was a shame. I mean, they did make the World Series, which,
Yes.
but
And then they got swept.
yeah, it's just such a shame that they couldn't get it
Those
done.
those Giants teams, dude, they ruined a lot of people. They
They
ruined a lot of
they
people.
really did. They ruined Texas. They ruined
Yep.
Detroit. They
Yep.
almost ruined Kansas City. Thank God they didn't.
Yep.
But I mean, they really made it difficult for
Yeah.
just about everybody whenever they made it. I just to go off topic a little bit, when the Giants made the postseason in 2016, I was pissed,
I know.
especially
Yeah.
when they had to face the Cubs. I was like, no,
Yep.
no, not this year, please, not this year. But the Cubs got it done. I was
Yep.
very happy about that. But
Yeah.
oh man, yeah, just a little off
An
topic.
even year. Crazy to think. Even
Yeah.
years. I can't. Like I said, it's still hard to fathom. They won 3 World
I
Series in
know
5 years.
they just were never really. I wouldn't say they were never expected, but it just seemed like they knew when to play. They knew
Yeah.
how to play in the biggest moments. So,
Yep.
because if you think in
Yeah.
2012, even, and I'll get off this tangent after this,
Hmm.
but in 2012 they were down 2-0 in the NLDS to the Reds, came back and won, and
Yep.
then they were down 3-1 in the NLCS to the Cardinals, came back and won.
Yep.
Then they just embarrassed the Tigers.
Embarrassing.
So, yeah, that's my little tangent for the day. But
I believe that World Series ended with I forget. It might have been Romo on the and he just struck out Miguel Cabrera,
yep,
looking kind of idiotic at the plate
yeah,
to end it.
yep, that was the final out, the strikeout to Miggy.
Now, if you look back at those Tigers teams, you would have been like, "That's fine. They'll be back next year. They'll retool. They'll go get another $200 million guy, and they'll just come back and they'll win it next year."
No, it's unfortunate, but
Just
I think,
goes to
like I
show you
said,
never
I
you
think
never know when. Sorry, you never know when it's your last time in the World Series.
I think this group of guys they have coming up though is gonna bring a title back. I'm really confident that this is gonna happen. And if it doesn't, then I don't know what you can do to me. But
Yeah,
hold me
yeah,
to it. I think this group's gonna win a title.
yeah, yeah. It very well could. You had a couple of the right uh, free agent pieces, couple of the right trade pieces, and you never know.
Exactly.
All right, I think we got it all. I think we've covered the Tigers pretty well. Um, as I said with a couple of the other rebuilding teams, future is bright for you guys. Not necessarily right now, but as early as a couple of years from now, you guys could be looking at October baseball once again. I look forward to seeing what you guys can put on the field.
Same here. Like we said, we had some technical issues yesterday, but we're going to get the Royals episode up a little later today.
Yep.
Be sure to follow us on our social media pages. YouTube channel is Dugout Talk. Facebook page is Dugout Talk. Username is @RealDugoutTalk. And then Twitter handle is @DugoutTalk1. We're very thankful for all our subscribers and all our followers. Up to this point, the YouTube channel's been blowing up over the last week. Cam, I don't know what you did on that solo episode, but whatever you did, you killed it. So,
like I said, I did nothing. All I did was bumble around about the cheat. Here I go. All I did was bumble around about the Braves for an hour, not knowing what I was doing. Like I had my notes in front of me, but I'm like, yeah, they got this guy, and he's doing this, and they got this guy doing that, and it's like I don't have great internet where I live, so I couldn't really like go and look up guys when I needed to, and so like if I started down a rabbit hole where like I had to know a guy's numbers, I'm like, well, great, no, I just just don't. I'm just gonna have to guess. So, but yeah, no, I appreciate it, guys. Appreciate the views you guys have been giving us. I look forward to getting you guys to see us and to us.
Yeah. Yes, very grateful for all of you. And again, we'll be back later today covering the Kansas City Royals. If you know any Tigers fans, or if you're just a baseball fan in general, share this podcast, share our channel with anyone you know. We love you guys. We adore you guys. Very grateful for all of you again. And yeah, I think that's gonna close. I think it's gonna close us out for this. And again, we'll be back. We'll be back sooner than later today.
All right. See you guys.
See you guys.